as we begin to open through the fields and welcoming in to this space, I just felt to come in this morning as I was unable to sleep and feeling called to look at what is occurring through the twin flame fields. As we start to feel into the heart space, we start to tune into the density within the heart center. So we see what is occurring, as we have spoken of so many times in the past, this clearing out through the separation, clearing out of the distortion, which is really a compression through the field planes as we merge the upper and lower bands through the atmosphere within the planetary system. So if we use for reference the waters of the earth as being the physical planes, and the sky as being the galactic realms, and the goal really being to merge the two fully and completely in accordance with divine proportions, that what we are doing really is squeezing out the atmospheric conditions of the earth experience. And this is an image that we can draw from. It's symbolic, but also highly representative of what is occurring within the energy fields. And so as we start to feel into this heart space, this density within the heart that is trying to be lifted out, and I keep hearing the word animosity, so this kind of bad blood or ill feelings between the masculine and feminine energies, and that there's really an attempt to resolve at the subconscious levels, because through the knowing, there is a deep knowing within the fields now as to how all of this will continue to play out in the physical effect. And yet, despite how much we may know within our heart, there are still places where these energies have almost latched into the biology. This starts to bring up a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety through the fields. So we start to open through the masculine. We see the light green tones and the light yellow tones coming into the field to begin to run a reversal through the heart space of these stagnant, actually polarized energies. As we start to open through the horizontals, and we start to adjust to, as we start to feel this through the vertical as well, so through the spinal column and into the base of the skull. And they speak of the Grand Cross. So the other day we were speaking of the shift through the orbital planes, through the polar coordinate system. So, and watching this shift between the vertical and horizontal energies, and the way that we will begin to interpret the horizontal as being the experience of being in the flow rather than subject to controlling energies. So the vertical component then becomes the human light embodiment, connection to source, but as the driver of the horizontal or the physical experience within the flow. So it's a very different experience now within the life force planes or these density planes of existence. And as we start to look at this 0, point within these coordinates between the vertical and horizontals, this is where we start to see into the heart and into these tones of refresh. So coming in with, and they are reminiscent of spring, of rebirth, of revival. And really this is almost calling up and flushing out there is a feeling of terror through the human experience as these changes come in, because it can feel as if it's completely altering our current reality and what we have known in the past. It's a huge shift in perception, a shift in dynamics between the counterparts, and therefore a shift in the physical experience and how this plays out within the human life. So we're just opening now through and to the raspberry fields to pick up on these tones of emanation into the field, to start to adjust and reorder through the light of the human. As we call in through the emerald fields, we start to see the adjustments through the eyes and the way that we see and perceive our experience. That we start to see through the jewel tones. It's almost as if we place these emerald colored glasses into our vision field, and it's a bit of a reminder about looking through rose colored glasses, and yet often that is how we have to start to run this experience through the human, as we continue to feel the flaring through the field of the fear and anxiety that comes up as we address what needs to be changed in our lives. That it can feel sometimes as we tune to source that we are throwing this wash over our field, and it can be a bit confusing because it can seem like we are trying to bypass or to escape from the problems of our lives, and yet this is truly the way that source manifests and the way that source operates, is this continual tuning through the mind to the remembrance of source light. And then we can start to see these false white lights that would come in to tell us otherwise. They come in and say, oh, what do you think you're doing? It's not this easy. It's not this simple to simply think different thoughts and have a different experience through our lives. And yet we find that this is the case, that when we can continually connect into source, continue to feel the support and the guidance of the light, knowing that we are surrounded and supported by the light, that this does in fact shift our entire experience. It shifts our experience of how we experience life, and that is really where and how the reordering will occur. If we continue to fight what is presenting in front of us, if we continue to see what is happening in our realities as a punishment, or as though we have made wrong choices, or that things are falling apart for us, we will, of course, experience that. But if we can see these things as, okay, this is what I need to do in order to get to where Source is now calling me, the shifts that I need to make in my physical life in order to properly align my being through the physical, that our experience and our energy will start to flow more easily. As we're coming into rapid shifts of being, and we've spoken of this as well in the past, that this has this rapture effect through the field of uplifting, and yet if we are fighting it, it makes it so much more uncomfortable. So to continually open through the mind, to tune to the light, to shift off of old perceptions and old ways of thinking and interpreting. We just see the clearing coming through the mind as we tune to the yellow tones of the life force field. So again, this shift in what we will be experiencing within the physical, that it is not going to be the same energy as in the past, and we have to learn to run in a different way, to run our lives differently, to tune into these energies and to tune into the flow, or it's going to constantly feel like bumping up against rocks in the waters. That the drivers within the physical existence are going to be the life force flows rather than the downward spiraling energies that we have been existing in, and that the mechanics through which we had previously developed in order to survive in this world, in order to live in this world, will no longer serve. So we see these, it's coming in as this raspberry tone again, this wave, and the wave is coming through the blue crystal, very dense, as they start to look like stones. Through these azure plains of being. It really hits in at the mind. You can feel all of the remaining distortions that are being released out through this wave. Okay, thank you and many blessings. And so it is.